Hello esteemed viewers and welcome to yet another video. This time I want to go over Clique, not entirely sure how that's supposed to be pronounced, but regardless, let's go over it so that you can get that set up. And if you don't know what Clique is, then it's basically the add-on that makes mouse over macros cry in agony as they suddenly become a lot less useful, because Clique is just so awesome. So if you like your mouse over macros, then you may want to consider getting Clique. Now, I'm going to open up my spellbook, and you'll go down. There's now like an extra little tab on your spellbook when you get Clique, and it's right over there, and you just click that. And when you open that, it opens the binding menu, and it has all of the options open for you to start using it. Alternatively, you can type /clique in your chat box, which is probably blocked. I'll see if I can take that away. Boom. And then you can say bind spell, and that will also open it up, but it's generally easier to just open your spell book. But enough of that. Then once you've got this little binding Clique thing set up, you're going to select the tab you want. So basically you've got this little thing which activates binding configuration, and then you have to pick the tab that you desire. So I've got discipline over here because that's the spec I'm using. So you want to make sure that you've got Clique there and you've got your discipline spec there. And then what you want to do in order to bind a spell is you say, okay, so I want flash heal to be R. You just hover over it and press R. There we go. Done. It is that's all you do. And maybe you want Archangel to be E. Boom. Archangel is now E. Halo. Let's make that 5. I don't know. Anyway, now how this would work is I've got R and E. I can press these, nothing's going to happen. Does not mess with your keybinds, right? If you've got your movement keys or whatever, doesn't mess with it at all, not even a little bit. What happens is when you're hovering over a unit frame, for example, whether it's yours or someone else's, whether you're using grid or the default UI, you hover over someone's unit frame, and then if you press R, it starts working. So you could even have things bound, like you might have R, might be one of your cooldowns, like Power Infusion might be R. Then you could use that when you're not hovering over something, and it would use Power Infusion, because it doesn't mess with your keybinds, right? It just only works when you've got it mouse over. But at the same time, for example, I have D bound to strafe right, so if we go over to the binding menus and we make, let's say, greater heal, we make that D, I can press D, and I will still strafe. However, if I hover over and press D, it will cast greater heal, and it kind of overrides your keybind when you're hovering over the person. And I think it also works on... no, it doesn't work on mouse over. It's just for the unit frames. I was wondering about that. Anyway, so now let's go and open up the Clique menu. And you can even right-click on these. If you want to delete the binding, maybe you don't want it anymore, just get rid of it, you can click delete. Or you can enable or disable the binding sets. You can have hovercast bindings target required. You can just have it on default, or friend, or enemy, or out of combat only, or primary talent spec only. These are all totally up to you, and what is good for you for using this. And you've got delete the binding, and you've got change the binding, for example. And with change the binding, that's basically you've already got everything set up, but now you're not happy with the key it's on, so then you use change binding, and then you go and you use the set binding. You just sort of hover over the set binding button and press whatever it is that you want to press. And then it will change the binding for you. And you can bind other things. You can have target clicked unit, you can have open unit menu, you can have run custom macro, you can bind things other than spells if you want to. And if you open up the options tab, I'm just going to click general options, and all of those things that you saw in that little options drop down menu, that's actually all in this options section of Clique, so you don't have to like close this window and then reopen the configuration window, go to options and then choose the other one that you wanted. They're all here. It just sort of changes which tab of the options in Clique you go to. So if we go over to general options, you can have trigger bindings on the down portion of the Clique. Now what that means is that usually when things are cast, it'll be when you press a button, and then when you release your finger from that button, then it will be cast. Whereas this should mean that you press down the button, and it starts casting the second you push that button, which does actually reduce the time it takes to cast things, so that might be something that you want. And you can have disable out of combat clicks when party members enter combat. All of these things, totally up to you. You can have it swap profiles based on your talent spec. If you tick that, Then you've got primary talent spec profile, and you've got secondary talent spec profile. This is the only character I've logged with this add-on, so it doesn't have like any massive amounts of profiles up there. Let's close that. And then you've got frame blacklist, which what this does is it kind of stops you from interacting with these frames with the add-on. So maybe you keep trying to use penance on people, but you accidentally mouse over the boss all the time, the boss target frame, and it's constantly hitting the boss with penance and it's driving you insane. Then you can tick that and just get rid of it and make sure that it ignores the boss target frame if that is something that is bothering you. And then you've got Blizzard frame options, which is just your, your player frame. You might want that. Player's pet frame, player's target frame, target of target frame, player's focus frame. These are just your general kind of Blizzard options to enable or disable things for you to use. And if you select Clique itself, it just tells you about the add-on, what version it is, and who made it. Which is awesome, because that person should get an award, because Clique is fantastic, and it's best used with other add-ons, or with the default UI even. But generally I would say if you're going to use Clique, you probably want to get something like shadowed unit frames might be good, or LVUI, or grid, or there's a lot of them. There's a lot. Anyway, I hope that this has helped you out, and this little guide to Clique, and hopefully it gets you up and running so that you can go and heal away, or do whatever it is that you would do with Clique. I'd imagine you'd pretty much always be healing, but maybe you DPS with Clique. In which case, if you do that, if someone does that, please say so in the comments, because I'd be fairly interested in how that works. Thank you for watching, and cheerio.